Hello and welcome to the Political Orphanage, a home for plucky misfits, problem solvers, and occasionally comedians. This week we are in fact talking about comedy. Well, comedy and ethics, or comedy and human rights. But comedy's going to slip in there, and in fact I am going to talk to some comedians about whether or not it is okay to perform stand-up comedy at festivals funded and run by despots. One side on this debate says performing comedy is good, go perform comedy. The other side says by doing this, you are endorsing and entrenching human rights abuses. The ethics of performing stand-up for dictators, that's what we're going to debate today, right here on The Political Orphanage. Hello and welcome back to a conflux of the world's smartest podcast network. We have been doing our own activities low these many months, and finally our dear friend Andrea Jones-Roy blew the conch shell to summon us and get our perspectives as very thinky comedians on a given topic we're going to discuss today. And then our dear friend Andrea was unable to show up. So we will not be hearing from Andrea. Unfortunately, Andrea is going to be joining us in spirit, but we are joined by yours truly, Andrew Heaton, the voice that you are now hearing, as well as that of Michael Ira Kaplan. Hello, Kaplan.
Hello, sir. It's good to be back.
And the esteemed, very funny Mr. Turner Sparks. Hello, Turner.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Good to be back on the show.
Good to be hanging out with you all again. You remain a great source of friendship, humor, and sanity for me in a very bizarre world. And I'm excited to talk to you. Turner, we finally get to fight about something. I'm very excited.
Yeah, we disagree. This is going to be great.
This is very well. So how about this? Since Turner and I are I think taking opposite perspectives on this particular issue, Cap, you're going to be something of the moderate then. Can you tell us
I'll be the moderate.
What is you're the humor centrist?
I'm the juror. You have to convince me of your...
Perfect. I like this very much. Well, as is normal in any American court system, the jury, of course, has to come out and explain what the trial is about. We all know that's how that works. So, Cap, as the foreman of the jury, could you explain to listeners what the Riyadh Comedy Festival is and what the controversy is surrounding it?
Wouldn't that be great if they had the juror do opening statements?
Yeah,
Some schlub who tried so hard to get out of jury duty and failed.
My name's Marty. I said that I couldn't do this because I have gout. My sister has a wedding. I still had to beat. Technically, it's on Saturday, but I wanted to beat traffic anyway. I'm here. Well, this is how I sees it. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that would get people more into trials, into the legal system. But the way I sees it is there's the Saudi Arabian government first. They decided to buy all the golfers. So they launched their own PGA tour last year. All these golfers, I don't follow golf, but a lot of big names were there. And then they said, you know what? We've got half the country is golf fans. What are the other half? The comedy fans. They're half the world. So let's get all of America's top comedians into our country. We'll pay them lots of money, which comedians don't always make. That's why I'm not a full-time comedian or even part-time. And yeah, so they're hosting a comedy festival, but people are upset about it because they don't have what we call, what's the word? Human rights?
They don't have human rights. This is true. They're really bad. Let me state this.
They don't have pet rights either, I don't believe.
As the pro-comic council, let me establish from the beginning, I am not claiming that the Saudi Arabian regime is a particularly good one. Yes, right. This is established. They are a non-democratic theocracy with abhorrent human rights abuses and unacceptable gender roles and what basically amounts to slavery. And I don't think they'd call it that, but in terms of building the aforementioned stadiums, they're using labor that appears to be coerced, forced, or unable to leave, which I would say broadly falls into the penumbra of slaves. So there's a lot of bad things they're doing.
Can I first say that I think that would be offensive to them? They claim they outlawed slavery in 1962.
Yeah, the Civil Rights Act of
very much.
The great civil rights legislation of 1962.
Wait, okay, so think of it as we get our Civil Rights Act in what, 1963? And
they were before us.
But we didn't have slavery.
No. We got rid of that.
Lyndon Johnson copied them. We
outlawed slavery in the 1800s.
So they're just about 100 years behind us, is what I gather. Then, in terms of that particular issue, maybe some other ones as well.
In that particular issue, but if you watch any, I mean, what is it? The Dissident, is that the documentary? If you anything you read, you just look. 1 millimeter below the surface, and slavery is still alive and well over there.
Yeah, but I must say, on the global slavery index, they're only the 4th worst country in the world.
Oh, good.
We behind North Korea, Eritrea, and Mauritania. So,
and who's less slavery than them?
Who's less
Who would
slavery?
be 5th?
We have
everybody. You mean just behind them?
Who's the 5th worst?
Turkey, Tajikistan, the United Arab Emirates, Russia, Afghanistan, and Kuwait.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
And Finland, I have to say, they're 151st. So
wow, interesting. Okay,
that's pretty low on the list. That means they have one that's probably a statistical error. That's probably somebody filled out a form wrong in Helsinki.
Someone who's very ginger.
Okay. Well, having established that the controversy is that the Saudi government, the regime, put on the Riyadh International Comedy Festival and at great expense flew over a lot of high-profile comedians. Louis C.K. is one of them. We can talk about some of them. Many of them are household names. Simultaneously, there were people that were invited that refused to go on ethical grounds. David Cross is probably the most vocal opponent of doing that, although there are others.
No. Let me just say, I'm supposed to be taking the other side of this, but David Cross was not invited. He makes it very clear he was not invited.
Okay. All right.
There was, I think Shane Gillis would be the highest profile who publicly has come out to say, I was invited and I didn't accept. I think we can almost assume that any high profile comedian at this point probably was invited. Probably Joe Rogan was invited.
Yeah.
Probably Nate Bargatze was invited. Probably anybody who picked the top 50 earning comedians, most likely they were all invited. Whether they all came out and have said since that they didn't do it.
And I'm the inverse of David Cross. I wasn't invited, and I would have gone. So
yes. You're right.
I've at least been consistent here.
Okay. So So the question is, should they have gone or should they not?
Is it ethical for comedians to perform for the Saudi Arabian regime on their dime? Is it, as David Cross would say, is it blood money? And we can infer, I think there's lots of different perspectives on this. Turner, you'll be able to field this, but I think why don't we make a good faith argument, like steelman each other's positions to kick off? This seems like a good way to do it. So the argument in favor of comedians boycotting the Saudi Arabian regime is that it is unethical. You're taking money which was unethically obtained, and by doing so, you are lending credibility to a regime which ought to be ostracized, and thereby whitewashing or artwashing the human rights abuses. I think that's the best argument against comedians going over there.
I would say there's much stronger arguments than that. Than those.
All right, well, let's get into it. But why don't you steelman my position on why I would go do comedy over there?
Your position, as far as I can tell, the other position would be that every country's bad. America's just as bad as Saudi Arabia. I'm parroting arguments I've heard from other comedians talking about this. America, we have as much blood on our hands as they do. We attack everyone in the Middle East. And so therefore, it's not Israel. And so therefore, if you perform at the Funny Bone in Buffalo, that's just as bad as performing for the Saudi Arabian government.
This is actually not my position, so I'm glad that we've established this.
Well, your position was not my position.
Right, fair enough. Well, then let's jump into it. Turner, had you been asked by Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince of MBS, if he called you and said, "Brother Turner, we really want you to come do. We can't have you headline, but we can have you feature for Louis C.K. at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. We're going to give you 15 minutes. We'll put you in a nice hotel. We're going to give you $150,000. You're only featuring, mind you, so $150,000. But we'll fly you over first class, all that stuff." You would have said no. Walk me through the ethics that would have governed that decision.
Okay, so you keep using the word ethics. I think that it's, for a lot of these people, not for all of them, but for a certain number of them, it's going to ultimately be bad for their career. So it's not just an ethics thing. And there's also this idea. So I know, based off information that I have, which is correct, that people were not paid outlandish amounts of money compared to how much they normally make. I think most people, you can estimate, were paid about 2 to 2.5 times what they would be paid if they just would have stayed here and, say, at Bill Burr's level, performed at Madison Square Garden, or at the whoever opened for Bill Burr, which I do know some of those names. I don't want to say them on here because those people aren't even public. But if they were to play the Funny Bone in Tampa, right? So it's really I would say no to this because I wouldn't have gotten $150,000. I would have probably, from best I could tell, I would have got paid well. It probably would have been like $50,000 to $80,000,
which I got to say is way more than I get paid to do stand-up. But your point is taken, though. You would catch a lot of flack for it,
I don't make half as much as that. Kaplan's doing the math on that. I've heard that's the low end. I'm sorry, that's the low end of what people made. I wouldn't have been invited because I don't make that much. But
60,000 might be more than every stand-up performance I've ever done if you add it all up. Not if we include funny videos for reason, but just me with a microphone telling jokes. That might be some total of my stand-up comedy spoils.
So my personal reasons aren't necessarily the reasons of everybody. So I don't know if my personal reasons even matter, but the reason I wouldn't personally do it because ethically it's not. I don't want to perform at the behest of any government.
Yeah.
And let me say this. I would never perform at the behest of any government that I disagree with.
Okay.
So I wouldn't, most politicians, most presidents in the history of our country, I would not go perform for them unless it would have to be somebody I really, really, really strongly agreed with. And I'm considering this an endorsement of that regime, whatever that regime might be. So I think that when Tony Hinchcliffe, for example, performed at that Trump rally, fine. He agreed with Trump. I think that was more ethical than, unless we're assuming that Louis C.K. agrees with the bin Salim, Mohammed bin Salim's oppressive government. If he says, yes, I do endorse that, totally fine. Go for it. And I'm also not here to tell other people what they should do ethically. Sure. I think that personally, ethically, I would never do that. I wouldn't do it for any government I don't agree with. Okay. But I'm still going. But I think that the reason why some of them should not have done it is because it's going to prove to it, because a lot of these guys and women are free speech warriors. They've kind of made themselves the champions of free speech in our country. And what they're showing to their own audience is that I'm not that. Everything I've told you I am for the history of my career, that was a lie. And I was just doing that because it was free. I was on the side of money. You know, it's easy to be pro free speech when the Apple computer company is also pro free speech or whatever it is, you know, on the same side of a topic as the money is on the side of the topic. So take the Black Lives Matter, era, for example. All the smart money was also in favor of Black Lives Matter. So it was no risk to come out in favor of Black Lives Matter in the world of liberal comedy, right? Point being that they're going to find some of them that part of their audience might go away. I think the number one example of this is, I'm forgetting her name. Kaplan, who's the female Jewish comedian?
I was going to bring this, Jessica Kirsten, who's already apologized, right? She's the first
Jessica
Kirsten.
Her audience is Jewish and gay. Those are
she's a Jewish lesbian. That's her.
And that's her base when you go to her shows. So they're very upset with her, very disappointed in her. She's now said she is apologizing for doing it, and she's donating the money to an unnamed charity, which is my favorite part. Yeah, but she didn't say which one. Aziz Ansari just did the same thing. He was on Jimmy Kimmel, I believe, last night. He's kind of didn't really apologize, but he did say a portion of his money is going to a charity. And so 1%, that's less of an apology. Then you have people like Kevin Hart, who's this big, broad comedian who's never really brought up politics in his act. He's never really been a champion of free speech. I don't know if you're a fan of his, if you necessarily care or know about, no offense, but if you're really tuned in. So I don't think he's risking anything by doing it.
But like someone like Bill Burr, who lately has been someone that liberals love to post clips of as if they just discovered him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Bill Burr's audience. You know?
So Turner, there's a couple of positions you're taking, and I'll get into mine in a minute, but I want to make sure I understand yours first. I appreciate the practical consideration. I think that's very realistic and pragmatic to think about. If there were going to be a massive amount of personal blowback to your career, and this was not something that you saw as I am doing this as a crusade to push a particular thing. Rather, it's an interesting experience or it's a paycheck or whatever. It might just be a bad idea to do it. So I can
make
appreciate
two
that.
times your money to risk your career.
Yeah,
to risk a portion of your audience. I'm not saying risking your career.
I can appreciate the practical consideration. I think that probably would vary from comic to comic in terms of who their audience is, what the money was, their level of thick-skinnedness versus thin-skinned. I'm pretty thin-skinned myself, so maybe I would cower out on that one. Me personally, maybe I would. I don't know. I do want to touch base on the performing for any government. So up until Trump, it was standard to have a White House Correspondents' Dinner every year, and
I was thinking the same thing.
You'd frequently have somebody like Colbert making fun of George W. Bush. So in a way, I guess you're endorsing the regime because you're going like, I'm okay with the system overall, but you're not necessarily endorsing the person. So for you, if you were asked to do the White House Correspondents' Dinner, let's say under Biden, would you have done it, or would that have crossed the line for you?
No. I would have done it because the money's not being. I don't think it's being funded directly by Biden.
Okay, because it's from the White House Correspondents Association. Okay.
Yeah, and then he's also not setting the ground rules of what you're allowed to say. So the comedians who went to Saudi Arabia had ground rules. They were not allowed to say anything bad about. They were not allowed to champion bone saws. They weren't saying. They couldn't say that bone saws.
I'm sure that there were probably a lot of provisions, but the ones that I read were twofold. I'm sure there were more than this, but the twofold provisions that I read, one of them I'm paraphrasing, was you can't criticize the Saudi Arabian regime. You're not allowed. You can't criticize the Saudi Arabian regime. And then I'll read this verbatim. This is a comic that was invited that turned it down, but screenshot their contract had they gone with it. And it said, artists shall not prepare or perform any material that may be considered to degrade, defame, or bring into public disrepute, contempt, scandal, embarrassment, or ridicule, A, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, including its leadership, public figures, culture, or people, B, the Saudi royal family, legal system, or government, and C, any religion, religious tradition, religious figure, or religious practice, which is fairly broad, by the way. That's not saying Islam. That's just saying religion in general.
Yes. Although I'm pretty sure if you made fun of Christianity, it would be okay.
You'd probably
in fact,
okay.
Wait. Dave Chappelle ended his set by saying he will never support. I can't remember if he might have said Israel and not the Jews.
No, he made a joke about how in America, he said that you have more freedom of speech to tell jokes in Saudi Arabia than America, and he made a joke that I support Israel is like code for.
He said, if I ever
say I support Israel or something,
if I ever say I support Israel on stage, you'll know that I'm being censored. Basically controlled by the state of Israel
or by America.
And he got, of course, standing ovation.
So can I walk you through why I would have done it? Why I think this is okay? All right.
Yes.
So I think that comedy is a really, really good way to spread ideas, even if you're curtailed in what you can say. I think it's actually very difficult to listen to somebody's full stand-up set without getting a pretty good idea of their worldview and how they think. And I read Chris Bliss did a great TED Talk 20 years ago now where he talked about how if I'm going to have an argument with you, my adrenaline level is going to go up, my cortisol level is going to go up. The more we argue, the less receptive we are going to be to other ideas. It's why arguments actually are fairly ineffective in general in converting people to whatever your position is. Jokes, however, don't work that way. Jokes are the opposite. If I'm getting you to laugh at stuff, you're getting a squirt of dopamine, a scientific term there, squirt of dopamine, squirt of serotonin. That makes you more receptive to other ideas. In my experience, even though political satire is not as much fun as it used to be, and it's fraught, I'm still a political satirist. I find that when I'm doing a set in front of a live audience, and I infer this from doing sets online, that people will walk with me for the length of the joke. They're willing to suspend their defenses long enough to hear the punchline. And I think that's really crucial. So for somebody, I've not watched any of their sets, by the way, and acknowledging even that they're having to curtail what they're saying, I think this is positive. I think having comedians go into Saudi Arabia, like Jessica Kirson deserves her applause for this.
She should go in there, yeah.
She should go in there. I think that merely having a Jewish lesbian, primarily the lesbian bit, go over to Saudi Arabia and do stand-up jokes, I think is great because there are probably people in that room that are homophobic that watched her and were like, God, she's really funny. I really enjoyed her. I think that is a positive thing for them to walk away and humanize somebody that they previously thought should maybe be executed or banned and go, that person's actually really funny. I think this is how ideas spread. And we're not going to get Saudi Arabia to change its positions through white papers. We're not going to be able to shame them on Twitter. there are certain things we could do on a policy level, like not funding their military or withdrawing alliances or economic boycotts. There's all sorts of things we can do politically. Culturally, though, I think it's good for us to go over there and spread American culture, even if it's truncated to some extent. Going over there and spreading ideas strikes me as a good thing, which could plant seeds of liberalism in the elite that are showing up. And that could have good fruits later on down the line. So I don't think that this is entrenching the regime. I think that this is actually a kind of soft cultural technique that could, in fact, be long-term subversive to it.
One thing you did bring up murder, which reminded me they killed a journalist 2 months ago for speaking against the government. So it's not like this is a thing of the past. I have heard that argument, not that you're making that argument, that, oh, that was the old thing and now they're trying to like be new and be good again. I mean, it's really just, it would be, you're being paid by a government who's pretty vicious to go entertain them.
So first, back to the earlier, the Steelman argument you made of we're all equally bad. I disavow that categorically. The idea that the United States and Saudi Arabia are equally, I think that's stupid bullshit that usually a particular kind of pointy-headed progressive will make these declarative statements. And what they're really doing is signaling how awful they hate the elements of America to show how morally pure they are. They don't really mean it. If you were to make a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being North Korea, 1 being presumably Denmark, where is America on the scale? Most people would say, I guess Denmark's a 1 and we're like a 3. Maybe if you're really upset right now, maybe a 6. We're still right now with everything going on. We're still much closer to Denmark than we are to North Korea. We're still much closer to Denmark than we are Saudi Arabia. So I don't think it's a situation where we're all equally bad. That's not where my mind is going. Yeah. But I will give a little bit of traction to the they're getting better argument. They're not great. I don't disagree. They're doing heinous things. This is the best they've ever been. Mohammed bin Salman is the most liberal, modernizing.
They need one of those signs. It's been 2 months since we murdered a journalist.
They're doing shitty things, but like let's think about some of the positive things they've been doing. In 2018, Mohammed bin Salman gave women the right to drive. Women couldn't drive cars till 2018. Right? That's something that the regime has done.
What a guy.
I mean, have you ever seen my wife drive? I mean, I don't, she hasn't driven in about 10 years before that. So
women couldn't travel in Saudi Arabia without a male guardian's approval. That's now been changed. They can travel freely. They were parts of the workforce that were closed off to them. Those have been opened up, at least in part. Public entertainment. Cinemas, concerts, mixed gender events, these have returned after decades of prohibition. Up until Mohammed bin Salman, you couldn't have men and women going to an entertainment event together. There's been curtailment of the religious police that was comparable to what was going on in Iran. They have been, to some extent, defanged. And while he is doing really bad stuff on a spectrum of theocratic despots, he's the best one they've ever had. So
can I ask you a question? Because the argument seems like being that any speech is better than no speech, right?
Yeah.
And we're kind of forgetting the fact that, because I'm someone who spent the first 8 years of my career building a comedy club in China.
Yes.
Bringing comedians over to perform there, but it was not at the behest and of the government of China.
But they still have things they couldn't say. I mean, they were right.
Sure, there was a couple things you were not allowed to say, but it was not. I think the big sticking point for me is that it's being clearly funded by the government. These shows are not making their own money back. So I've seen videos of some of these shows. Some of them, like the Dave Chappelle ones, the Russell Peters, those are sold out. Those are in big theaters. There's also guys who I know who got paid hundreds of thousands of dollars who are performing for 15 people. So it's not they don't care if they make their money back. The point of it is clearly, without even like shadowing it, clearly the point is not to make money. This is not a business venture. This is a whitewashing venture. It just is.
For that reason, I think, again, Jessica Kirson did the right thing to go there. I think her being a lesbian performing was good. And I think if we take her at face value, I'll do this for now, that she's going to give her money to a human rights organization. It clears her of that ethical charge of taking money blood money from a bad regime. She went over there, she told jokes as herself, and then she's going to give the money to something combating the kind of thing they're doing.
So where would you, like, what if, like in 6 months, what if Putin launched a comedy festival? Paid for by Putin. Would Jessica Kirson, would it be good of her to go there?
I think in general, for us to go over there and rub shoulders with people and talk to them and expose ideas, or let's flip
I mean,
it.
I
So
just
like,
disagree.
wait, hold on. So let me walk through. So I graduated from the University of Edinburgh. That's where I got my master's degree, right? There's a huge amount of Chinese students that go over there. My guess is that they are probably funded in part by the Chinese regime. I don't know this for a fact, but there might be. There's zero money that they give at all. There's no scholarships that the Politburo might give to students. I don't know.
Maybe if you're every once in a while, I know plenty of Chinese people who they have to pay their own way. Parents.
That's terrific. All that being said, though, my overall thing is that's great for them to come over to Scotland. I think the communist regime in China is bad. I don't like it. They're also doing terrible things. For that reason, I would love for more Chinese people to hang out in America and Scotland. I think that is a positive development.
I should say I've never met a single person who the Chinese government paid for them to go to college in another country.
Great. What I'm mostly concerned with is the transmission of ideas and exposing people to liberalism. So if people living under a bad regime, let's say they're funding it themselves, are coming to a country that is more liberal, like America or Scotland, that's
North
good.
Korea. What about North Korea?
I would love for North Korean people to come to America. And
would you go to a comedy festival for the fat kids?
That would be fun.
I would probably not do that for practical reasons because I would be worried that they would kidnap me or kill me. They have a pretty good record of doing that. So no, for my own self-preservation, I think that there was a very good chance there would be false pretenses of doing that.
There's false pretenses of doing this.
Was anybody worried about being killed in Saudi Arabia?
No, but the false pretense is that you're there to show that, hey, this bin Salim guy's a great guy. And if you've read any of the quotes from Bill Burr, Dave Chappelle, most of these people afterwards, they're coming away going, that's the best country I've ever been to. The princes were so happy. I saw them laughing at my show. They're just like us. They have McDonald's. It's like, great.
No bacon though.
Do you think with these princes though, like I think it's far more likely that they're going to be slightly more liberal in the broad sense of the word, having seen all of these comedy acts, than the other way around. I think that it's more likely that good ideas will enter Saudi Arabia through this than it will retrogress. So I appreciate they're a bad regime. There's unethical things going on, but I think that having exposure to liberal ideas, wherever that comes from, is going to be positive.
Would you want to be the stooge that's used to do that?
I think I'd be okay with that if I went over there.
He's already said he wants to be.
Here's what I'm anticipating. I'm anticipating that I would they would truncate some of my comedy, but also like maybe I would make jokes about how I'm an agnostic. I'm not going to make fun of their religion, but I'll make fun of my own perspectives and things. I'm going to make fun probably of American politics, but by doing so,
I don't know if it's the free speech as much as it's parts of it's free speech. The bigger part is like endorsing a regime.
Because I think you're saying because there's a lot of film festivals around the world that are in bad countries. In Doha, I'm sure Russia has one.
Well, okay, go ahead, and then I'll make my point.
Turner. In theory, if it had been the Saudi Arabian Comedy Association putting this on, it's not the official government.
Great.
So you would be okay with that then? Like you would be. It's just the source of the money that bothers you.
If it's like a private, two 25-year-old Saudi Arabian kids who just love comedy. And they're scrapping together money. I can tell you, no one's getting $1.6 million to do it. If it needed to,
but no, this helps clarify too. Like,
I would totally be fine with it.
During the only precedent I can really think of for this is like apartheid. There were attempts to for entertainers to boycott South Africa in total during apartheid. It wasn't successful. Like Elton John went over there, Queen went over there. There were lots of people that went over. But on that end, so during that time, if you'd been given an opportunity to do stand-up in Johannesburg, provided it were coming from a private source, you would have done it. However, if the South African government had funded it, you wouldn't have done it.
Definitely.
Okay. What if it's like there's an arts Scotland and England both have a ton of arts that is subsidized by the government. What if it's partially subsidized by the government? Like what's the level of purity you have?
Is it really trying to checkmate you?
No, this is great. I mean, my question, what's the
lawyer Heaton?
What's the intent of what are we doing? Like the intent here is not hidden at all. I think if the apartheid South African government was like, come over because we're so great and you're going to go home and jump in the New York Times and tell everybody how great we were and we're misunderstood and we have McDonald's. And even though all black people are in prison, we're really just like you. and here's Elon Musk's mom and whatever,
Right.
then,
So that I got to say that does sound like a problem with them. I'm pretty sure that if I'd performed
that's what
comedy
Bill
in
Burr is
Johannesburg,
saying about Saudi Arabia right now.
we could condemn him for saying positive, like for having no critical skills whatsoever. If that is the case, we can condemn him for that. But if I were doing stand up in South Africa, when I got back, I think I'm guessing I would have said something like, I had a really good time. I met a lot of really good people, but I really fundamentally disagree with apartheid. Like,
he didn't say that part. No one's saying that part. They're saying that there's free speech. You have more free speech in Saudi Arabia.
Objection, Your Honor. We're not talking about whether Bill Burr is doing the right thing. We're talking about whether it's okay whether or not you go perform comedy over there.
You're living in hypotheticals. I'm living in what's actually happening today with this festival. It's happening in this comedy festival with these people.
See, I'm thinking if I went over there, I think what would happen is I would end up hanging out with a lot of Saudi Arabians off the record. I would be doing it off mic. We would go hang out and we would be a little bit more candid, and maybe I'd be able to slip in some good ideas to them. I think that
would be great if it's not funded by Mohammed bin Salim.
Okay. All right. I take it then. And Turner, all I'm trying to do right now, I'm not trying to like really argue against you. I'm just trying to figure out what the ethical lattice work is that you're operating with.
I was trying to figure it out with you when I was asking if you performed for like the South North
Putin's
Korean
Comedy Fest.
So there is a practical consideration, both
Pyongyang Comedy Festival, best of the fest.
To your career and like with Pyongyang, I think that there is like bodily harm. Like they've literally captured artists before and made them.
They killed a journalist 2 months ago in Saudi Arabia.
Okay,
I know. So 2 months is a long time.
If I thought that there was a high likelihood I would be killed,
I see what you're saying. You personally,
I probably wouldn't do it.
Not other people. Yeah.
If I thought I could, if I could go to Russia and do stand-up comedy, and I was going to get to hang out with Russians and was able to talk to them about what life is like in America, I think that'd be good.
No. Agreed. That's not my point. I know Russians. I know actually they had to flee the country because of they were comedians. But let's say they were still there. I would do that too. I wouldn't do it on Vladimir Putin's dime to go to his palace and perform for his friends.
Okay.
You would.
Neither would I.
For the record, I would give it serious thought. I'd give it
Kaplan's
serious
still
thought.
here, by the way.
I think what I would probably
I'm just enjoying it. I was like, I gotta go, but I'm enjoying the refereeing this a little bit.
I'd probably do it, but then I would give the money to some pro human rights group or pro democracy group or something like that. Like again, I think.
What about what if you didn't get caught?
What do you mean?
Well, if Jessica Kirsten, she wouldn't have got blowback, do we really think she would have donated this money?
I don't know.
She didn't announce she was donating till like 2 days ago, and she's been home for 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And if you look on any of their social media, sorry, Cap, if you look on any of their social media, look at any of them. Go to Bill Burr's, go to Jessica Kirsten's, go to, I don't know, who else is doing, there's 100, Pete Davidson, we didn't even go to him. His dad got killed in 9/11 by Saudi Arabia. Go to any of their social media. It's wall-to-wall comments of people upset with them for doing it.
Sure.
So of course,
but for Turner, for you, it's just the source of the money, right? Like if there were an American group that funded comedians to perform stand-up comedy in Pyongyang, and their glorious leader was going to be in attendance, would you do it if the money were coming from America?
I think the idea of the glorious leader being in attendance, no, I would not.
The glorious leader is the thing.
The glorious leader is a rubbing point.
Where would the dividing line be? I mean, hold on, I have to be careful here.
I think what I'm thinking of is what we've both done. Going to Cambodia and doing comedy, going to Vietnam. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with the Vietnamese guy. I don't keep tabs on them. I'm not totally sure what they're up to in Vietnam.
Yeah.
But I've been to the Philippines. It wasn't an endorsement of Duterte. I was performing. I was sleeping on guys' couches and performing at barbershops or little tiny comedy clubs with the local scene. I think all of that is great. Do all of that.
But I think, can I just interject one thing here? Is that I think a lot of the criticism you're saying they're getting is because it is Saudi Arabia, and there is a certain, to the left, it's the only Arab country you're allowed to like dislike, I believe.
Yes.
Because Saudi Arabia, it goes back to a lot of things. They're the rival to Iran. They're secretly kind of allies now with Israel. They don't talk about it.
Well, going back to being like friends with Bush.
Yeah, Bush family, Michael Moore. Like there's a lot. So that's the only one you're allowed to criticize. There's so many comedians who have, and bands and all sorts of people, filmmakers who have toured terrible countries and they wouldn't get criticism. So I respect what Turner's saying because you're doing it like a very ethical to where the money is. I don't think a lot of the criticism they're getting is because of where the money is coming from. It's just because of the country itself, Saudi Arabia. And I do think, like, just go back.
No, I think that's wrong. Can I tell you why you're wrong immediately?
Yeah, sure.
because Russell Peters has toured Saudi Arabia multiple times and no one's ever brought it up because a private company
because
was
it wasn't
bringing him
part
over.
of this whole festival that was like getting all this publicity. I don't know.
I think it's probably both. So I read the
chicken
David
or the
Cross,
egg. What comes first?
The David Cross wrote on his website a fairly excoriating monologue about how, one, he appreciated the comic abilities of everybody over there, but he thought they were making a horrible decision. You are a rich person's whore. You're whoring out for the money. He was very concerned about the money. I think there was a touch of the you are enabling the regime by showing up. I think there's probably both criticisms going on for a lot of people. The bit that I have a problem with Cross is I don't remember him having any maybe I missed this, but when Hillary Clinton turned out to be taking money from the Saudis for the Clinton Foundation, I don't remember this uproar. This was back during 2016, right? Turns out the Clinton Foundation was taking money. Now, Turner, I'm guessing you would have been opposed to this, which is good in principle.
Can I just make a broad statement here?
Yeah.
Can I make a broad statement
Yeah.
about comedians? And this is not going to do me any favors. This is not going to do me any favors in the world of comedy. American society, and now the society of the world, the comedy fan world, has been for years, maybe decades, giving comedians way too much credit for how intellectual they are.
Yeah.
And smart.
Yeah, we became like the cultural truth tellers after Jon Stewart became
that
popular.
These comedians are modern day philosophers. And as Norm Macdonald famously said, meanwhile, we still have modern day philosophers. And these guys who are telling like dick jokes at a nightclub we're somehow looking to them to be like, but what did they think about when Hillary took money? None of these people know any of this stuff. And I have a friend, I'm not going to say his name, who did his comedy festival in Saudi Arabia, told me he was there, didn't realize at the time that it was even a controversial issue back in America.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I'm at this comedy festival, and started explaining
I'm in the desert. I don't remember which country. There are palm trees and there are
I'm
camels.
not going to make any religion jokes. I don't even know what religion they do here.
And like this guy, Andrew Schultz, I know he tries to pass himself off as this deep thinker, like intellectual. He's made a lot of money off of it. He's kind of Joe Rogan's like AAA version, up and coming Joe Rogan. He's there in Saudi Arabia. He's like a real free speech advocate. His whole reason why he voted for Trump is because free speech. That's it. We should be able to say whatever we want, whenever we want, wherever we want. And then he went to Saudi Arabia, and people are disappointed. And you shouldn't be disappointed. I've been in green rooms with people like this. You probably have too, Heaton. Not all these are the most deep thinking intellectuals.
No, I think that's true. I will say, I do find that in general, successful comedians tend to be very high IQ and have a lot of interests.
Some are morons.
No,
Some
and people
are
think they're
morons.
smart because of they know
They're
one
not. Wait, no,
Yeah.
some are,
or some are smart on some topics.
How about
too.
let's talk about the free speech thing for a minute on whether or not this really subverts their free speech bona fides. I appreciate the through line you've got on the money, Turner. But I'm going to set that aside for a moment. We'll talk about the free speech issue for a minute. I've done gigs before where I was curtailed in what I could talk about. So like when I did the China International Stand-Up Comedy Festival, we were told for very practical reasons, not because the club had this perspective, but we were told don't make any jokes about any living member of the Politburo, Xi Jinping, Taiwan, or Tibet. And I was like, well, that's my whole set. How am I going to do anything now? And I was like, all right, that's fine. I can work around that. And then when I've done country clubs with you in the past, like in my experience, Turner, we always talk to them and they always go, is there anything we can't say? And they're like, well, we're pretty fun here at Twin Oaks Country Club. You can get away with a lot. And then we'll run a couple of jokes by them. They're like, that's a bit much. So like all the country clubs like to think of themselves as the rascals, but in reality, you basically have the level of basically if your grandmother had a drink, that's the level of risque that they're willing to have, and that's fine. I can not do my joke about how you need to get a girlfriend when you're on LinkedIn and you're tempted to masturbate. Okay, I can drop that joke. So like I don't feel like the fact that they're having to knock out they are being impeded in the speech that they can give necessarily undermines their pro free speech ability in general. Do you think that is the case?
I think it does for some people. Yeah, I disagree with you. I think that I don't go around as a free speech advocate. It doesn't have to do with my comedy act. I'm on stage telling jokes. I think you are too. I think that certain amount of those comedians who went over there are too. I think Russell Peters is a guy who just gets up and tells jokes. I think Kevin Hart's a guy who gets up and tells jokes. But clearly, someone like Andrew Schultz is somebody, and Dave Chappelle, frankly, and Bill Burr are people whose kind of their whole ethos, their whole brand is this idea that they're these free speech warriors and advocates. And so this is hypocrisy is what it is. And it's also not, I guess it's one thing. I don't know if this is different or not. I think it's one thing if you go and you're performing for like, say the IBM Christmas party and they go, hey, can you just go a little light? You know, it's Christmas and all the families are here.
The boss just had an affair. Maybe don't do any affair jokes.
Yeah, we do love you, but nothing too.
The boss just chopped up a journalist. Don't do any jokes about chopping up journalists.
And then it's just like not the time or place. But then this is. So I think for some people, no problem. For other people who've staked their whole career on how free speech warriors they are, it's hypocritical. And I'm not going to listen to them anymore when they come back here in 6 months and they're ranting about free speech.
So any comedians, by the way, we don't know. No comedians violated the rules, right?
No, not that. I don't think so.
Yeah. I doubt it. Yeah. I see your point. If somebody is, a free speech champion and whatnot, participating in a festival with strictures that are that bad. I don't know. I'm kind of looking at do you guys know Noam Dworman? Do you know Noam Turner?
Oh, the guy from the Comedy Cellar?
Yeah. He's the owner of the Comedy Cellar.
Yeah.
He's a really interesting guy to talk to about free speech, cancel culture, stuff like that. I had him on the show maybe 2 years ago when maybe Louis C.K. was in the news at the time because he was just starting to do stand-up at clubs again. And as I recall, I'm speaking for Noam, and maybe I'm bungling this, but the relevant distinction he made was if there's somebody that I don't want to hear from, I think they're odious. I think they're a bad person. I am not going to go to the club if they're doing jokes. That's one thing. That the kind of censorious element that creeps into culture through cancel culture or through censorship is when it extends past, I do not wish to participate in this. I don't want to watch that guy. I don't want to watch that movie, to none of you get to watch the movie. I'm going to make sure nobody gets to participate in this. And I feel like a lot of the free speech conversations we have in comedy are more along those lines of, look, if you don't want to listen, you don't have to listen, but don't remove other people's ability to do it. So I could see somebody like Bill Burr going over there and participating and being like, look, if you don't want to deal with me, you don't like me being in Saudi Arabia, that's fine, but I'm going to go do it. And so I don't see the contradiction for him doing that.
Okay, but what about if you don't like me talking about Mohammed bin Salim bone-sawing journalists? Fine, but I'm still going to do it. He didn't say that, did he?
No, but I don't see that as qualitatively different than the boss at the Christmas party saying, don't bring up anything about embezzlement because we had an issue the other day. Like that happens. Like you get certain things that are off limits. It just doesn't strike me as fundamentally distinct.
Turner's just struck it. They're not all truth tellers. It's ultimately what it is. There's not all,
Of course.
Jimmy Kimmel was this great free speech martyr for like one day, but he's not going to make certain, that they're, comedians you got to get the paycheck, it's ultimately, and people.
No, you're not breaking news to me. I'm in this industry.
Yeah. So Turner understands that. And I think that the fans don't understand it. So they were hurt.
Fans do not understand
I think Turner hit the right point. It's like, it's not that they're wrong for going. It's that some of them, it was a bad probably career move because they're hardcore fans.
Is it going to be worth it for Jessica Kirsten to say
Probably
double what
not.
she would have made
But in
here?
my case, though, Turner, given that I only have 18 fans, I can stand to lose 9 of them. If I lose 50% of my stand-up enthusiasts, I can rebuild. For her, that's going to be really tough.
Yeah. It is wild. She's a Zionist Jewish lesbian, and she did perform in Saudi Arabia. So that is.
I mean, the wilder one is the guy whose dad was killed by Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Well, that was 25 years ago. In a fair, I was thinking about. No, I mean seriously. Like,
and did you see? By the way, did you see Pete Davidson's response to it?
No.
He said some people. He said this on a podcast publicly on Theo Von's podcast, another truth teller out there. And he said, some people don't like the fact that I'm doing it on account of the fact that my dad got killed by the Saudi Arabians in 9/11. But what they have to understand about me is. All I see, my agent gives me the amount of money I'm going to make, and then what city I have to fly into, and I go. So that's kind of the level of not all, but a lot of people were a lot of people in the
see, that's kind of how Penn Jillette is. I think Penn Jillette is like, and I've only met him once or twice, but he, as I understand it, fairly clear on that, where he's like, look, I go on every single show I can and I promote my magic show in Las Vegas, and that's it. Like I don't.
What I'm saying is that we're all thinking deeper about this than probably most of the people who went.
See, and Turner, that's one of the problems. When people ask me what I do now, Turner, I tell them I'm either kind of a shitty, unsuccessful comic or a pretty funny journalist. Like I'm somewhere in that range.
You're wildly successful podcaster.
I'm this horrible hybrid frog character who's amphibian. I'm neither funny enough to be full-time stand-up nor smart enough to be full-time journalist.
I'm the funniest real estate agent around. That's my calling card.
Nice.
And Theo Vaughn said Israel did 9/11 anyway, I'm sure, in response to Pete Davidson. So it's not.
I don't know. I didn't see it.
Cap, how about you being the comedy centrist in this equation? I think you should ask a couple of barbed questions to me and Turner both, and then you can make your decision and we can wrap up.
Barbed questions. What's the word barbed mean? Tough?
Put it like try to put us on the stand and make us squirm a little bit.
I would say so. All right. So I'll do one question for each. Turner, I'll start with you because I have a question in mind. What would be your what's the line? Who's the arbiter of deciding of a country is, over the line? Because
Who's the arbiter?
Yeah, because I'm just thinking about how there's the whole BDS, because he brought up apartheid, and obviously South Africa is in a unique situation. And right now I'm very sensitive because Israel is being black. No one's allowed to perform ever in Israel again if you're a band or anything. And so it's like, obviously I know Saudi Arabia is bad, but there's so many bad countries out there. I guess, is it just a matter of getting money from the government? It doesn't matter who the government is or that.
Well, first of all, I don't think anyone's the arbiter. I think everyone needs to decide for themselves. I'm not telling people they shouldn't have gone to Saudi Arabia.
So if I went to Saudi Arabia, we'd still be friends.
I have friends who win. I'm still friends.
You avoided the question, but okay.
Kaplan knows. I knows who they are. I'm not going to say name.
Yeah.
I a couple people. So I personally wouldn't have gone. We've already gone through this, right?
Yes.
And I think for certain people it's a bad idea. So who's the arbiter? Everyone can decide for themselves. For me, yes, I think that I wouldn't go perform at the pleasure of a government, being paid for by that government. And also, especially when you're clearly being paid like so much more than you normally make, there's an ulterior motive. We can all pretend there's not, but there is. And I wouldn't do it if I didn't agree with whatever their message was. I would see it as an endorsement of that person I'm going to perform for.
Okay, and I think I may know this question. Just to follow up though, because I want to nail this down. Let's say the Gomorrah County Community Center. It's government funded. It's just in the middle of the country.
Sodom and Gomorrah?
Where's Gomorrah County?
Oklahoma.
It's just like in the Bible?
Oklahoma? Yeah, why not? I don't know.
But it's because presumably that level of at the county level, if they were funding an arts festival, there's the
sure.
I don't know,
yeah. Whatever.
Cleveland
I've
City,
like you would view that as, even realized I did.
So even though that would be publicly funded, you would view that as sort of anodyne enough and neutral enough that it would not offend your ethics to perform for a government, so long as it was neutral, non-obscene, fairly local, that kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite example is of this, like, getting out. Do you guys remember when Beyonce performed a private party for Gaddafi's son?
Yes.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And she got paid $2 million.
Yeah.
And the story came out like years later because clearly she wanted it to remain secret.
Yeah.
And when it came out, her defense was that she didn't know who Gaddafi was.
Possible.
So just someone's giving you $2 million and you don't.
I'd probably Google him. I will say I would at least Google.
Honestly, do you believe Beyonce knew who Gaddafi was?
No, but her agent did. I would believe her agent did and would have tipped her off. Hey, just before we decide, or maybe her agent.
I know
that
firsthand.
Money.
Celebrities love to be paid to go to random.
Where did Robert De Niro go?
Well, I think he met with Gaddafi, to be honest. At some point.
No, did he really?
I probably should have said that. But I'll say this once: he was going to go to Iran until this is my. I worked for Robert De Niro, so I do know this. I was literally going to get the visas. Like I was like my job for the day.
The Ayatollah?
It was like, and I was like, it was like on Purim, and I had to go pick him up. And Jewish holiday, Persia, look it up. And then I believe it was the great late Richard Holbrooke who told him that'd be a bad idea. You're going to be used as a puppet for this government, so he canceled his trip. So I think celebrities in general, comedians are celebrities. Ultimately, a lot of these people you're listing, they have a lot of yes people in their life. They don't get told this is a really dumb idea. by people close to them. That's what they kind of need. This
Well,
great
also-
new weird the society tells them for them.
Think
fans.
about it. If you're making $500,000 to go to Saudi Arabia, your agent's making $50,000 or maybe $100,000.
Yeah, they like to get a slave,
And also,
Yeah,
they're not going to get any blowback. Your agent's not
no
going
one's
to get in
coming
trouble.
after your.
No one's
agency.
getting mad at Harney Smackey's talent agency located in Hoboken. They're fine.
But since I was supposed to ask you a question and I got to run, but I'm going to ask you one last question. Since you are not adult, you are an intelligent human being. We know this. You've already.
Yeah.
So
I'm that
how would you,
hybrid state of substantive and amusing.
yeah. So how would you live with yourself and be able to? You have to go over there to any country, say Saudi Arabia, and not tell jokes if you are
Kiss
so
the
intelligent.
ring.
You're going to think of a joke and you're just not going to say it. Like, how are you? You're depleting your audience. How can you live with yourself as a brilliant political comedian? Because this is no talking politics.
Well, that might be a practical thing, right? Like if they said you can't talk politics at all, I've got two sets that I do, right? I've got my normie set and I've got my political set. And if I've got to do a long period of time, I combine them, and it depends on who I'm going to. So usually if I get booked for like a student group or a political action committee, they will have me usually do like 20 minutes maybe, in which case it'll be mostly political, but maybe I'll tailor some stuff. And it's easy for me to borrow from either one. So like Reason had me do warm up for a debate they did last week on immigration. And so I had an immigration joke. And then after that, I just did every joke I could think of about like the Swiss, the Germans, the Australians. It was just like couching it as like, I'd be okay with them immigrating. So like that was kind of me borrowing.
Change the setup, change the joke.
Yeah,
Same punchline,
like,
change the
when I do-
premise.
if I go do political stuff, like I'm tipping the deck here for anybody that ever hires me. It's very easy for me to go, hey, red state, blue state, right? Well, now I can recycle all of my geographic jokes about how Oklahoma is different than New York. Now I can couch it as red state, blue state. That being said, though, if I was having to do 45 minutes to an hour, I am not nearly as comedically voluminous or productive as our friend Turner. So I can't cut out very much of my set. If I had to do 45 minutes and they said you can't do anything political.
You just get killed halfway through your set, literally murdered by the prince.
So that would potentially be a thing where if they were like, you got to do 45 minutes, but you can't do anything political, I don't know that I'd be able to. I might have to just go, well, I can't functionally do it. But in terms of how I would live with myself in that instance, noting that I would practically assess the situation in terms of, one, is this going to be fun? Is it going to help my career? Is it going to hurt my career? I would be thinking on a self-interested level in that regard. Are they going to murder me and put me in a duffel bag? Am I going to be in a hard labor camp? These are things I would think about. Assuming that I wasn't worried about those things, I didn't think that it would be blowback to my career or to my physical body, and all I'm having to think about is the ethical ramifications of it. I think I would remain at the point that exposure is good, that probably more good would be for me coming over there and meeting people. I do tend to hang out after sets and chat with folks, and
They
maybe
got a
I'd
good
be
green
able to
room there. A lot of food.
be able to
a lot of.
yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be good, and I think that I think that Cap, where I can now be very very ethical and preen and virtuous, and tell you at this point where I was not offered the money, I would have donated it all to a human rights organization. That way I wouldn't have to worry about the blood money, and it really would just be the experience and the exposure. I can't honestly tell you that that's how it would play out. But as of now, that's what I'm thinking. That's how I would do it. If I weren't making money off of it, if it was just the experience, if it was just me going over there and telling jokes, I would view it as a net positive, where probably some good ideas fell out, and it was more than whatever amount of tacit endorsement people would infer for me performing. All right, so we're at the 50-minute mark. Kaplan, you got to drop out. Where do you land on this, Kaplan? What would you do if you get called up by Saudi Arabia and they're like, we got real estate jokes and anecdotes about Robert De Niro. Do you got any? We're going to pay you $50,000. What do you do?
Real estate is a tough business. I haven't sold a house in a couple months. So yeah, I'm taking that check. I'm coming in. If you book me, MBS, book me.
Okay.
You're going to be selling even less houses.
And I am telling you this right now, Turner, we're doing a charity event in November in Long Island City here that I'm running a comedy night, and Turner's going to be performing there. And I'm gonna tell you, Turner, no jokes about religion. All right. No jokes about Kaplan. No jokes about my royal family. No jokes about religion. And I didn't tell you this, but you got to get sponsors for this event. So the Saudi Arabian government,
Sure,
and the good people of Turkestan are the two sponsors. So, the slavery index.
They love investing in Long Island City charity events. That's how Turkestan.
Too late. You already signed the contract, so you could donate all your money to a charity, but
$50 whole to sell out for the Saudi Arabian government.
Excellent. Well, hey, gang, I think then unless Turner, unless you have any closing thoughts, I think we'll draw down. Then in that case, it has been a pleasure talking to you both. It was really, really fun to be in the same online room with you once more. Turner and Kaplan, where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me at Turner Sparks on Instagram, turnersparks.com. Turner Sparks on Instagram. Follow it. My wife and I do a ton of sketch. I'm writing sketches now twice a week. My wife and I are a 2-person sketch team. I write them. She acts in them. She doesn't even know what she's acting in. I just put the camera up to her face and I go, say these 3 lines. She says them and then walks away. And then 2 days later, people are like, you were great in that video. And she doesn't even know what they're talking about.
Fantastic. Check out Turner Sparks on Instagram. Cap, anything you want to plug?
You can find me at Cap in America or Cap in NYC, where I am a real estate agent. I know the Heaton heads are a very wealthy group. So any Heaton fans in New York who need help with real estate, look me up, Cap in NYC.
You know what? I've been saying this for a while. I've got my own defense attorney in New York named Paul Townsend. Michael Ira Kaplan is my real estate agent in New York.
A real estate agent of the podcast.
That's all you need.
Official real estate agent of Andrew Heaton.
Defense attorney and a real estate agent. That's all you need.
Yeah, and then I'll throw it on my end. Hey, listeners, if you are on Patreon or Substack, I think I'm going to put up a poll. I'm going to put up a poll on whether or not people should perform comedy in Saudi Arabia. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Turner's position and my position.
See who won.
And we'll see who won. Yeah.
This is a road game for me, but still, I think I can win on the road.
Yeah, you came into the jungle.
All right. Well, thanks, gang. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Bye.
Hey, gang. Lord Uncle Heaton here. Couple of quick announcements before we wrap up the show, and then I'm going to conclude with a 5-minute stand-up routine that I just did last week for an unrelated debate. So first, I hope you enjoyed Judge Week last week. Maybe you're still catching up. I hope you enjoy it. This week, even though it's not Judge Week, this week you can still sign up on Patreon or Substack to be eligible to win a gavel. Or if you are already a patron, you can go to mightyheaton.com/gavel. Let me know how you have shared or promoted the show, and you will be eligible to win a gavel simply for spreading the good word. If you are new to the program, you want to sign up, go to thepoliticalorphanage.com for Substack or go to patreon.com/Andrew Heaton for Patreon. This week's bonus episode is also comedy. A professor from Manitoba reached out to me wanting to discuss the difficulties of performing political comedy in today's partisan, toxic era. Apparently, I was his top pick, given that I have a background in both stand-up comedy and I am the author of a book on tribalism. So we have a really, really good chat. The bonus episode is a little different than usual because it's him interviewing me about being a comedian explicitly in this brave new horrible political world that we find ourselves trapped in. Plus a fair amount of my backstory and history and biographer as a performer. So it's a nice comedy follow-up to today's main episode. And if you're the kind of person that really likes comedy, you like learning about comedy and the nuts and bolts of comedy, it's very much going to be fun for you. Next, unrelated, my friend, your friend of the program, friend to all dogs, Josh Jennings, has a book out today. He has written a book. It is available. You can get it today. Now, you've heard Jennings on the show many times before. He's been a guest. He was my producer way back in 2018 on Something's Off with Andrew Heaton. And if you were a longtime listener, you have definitely heard him many times in sketches and in every single Christmas special we've ever done. He's voiced many of the characters, all funny. So if you like the show and you like Josh Jennings, you will love his book. It is called Space Tractor and Other Science Fiction Short Stories. I have read it, and it is excellent. Some of the stories are touching. Some of the stories are funny. All of them are good. And I can also say that it is a rarity for somebody to produce a short story collection that is that varied. Usually anthologies are all pretty stylistically similar when they're from the same author, but
In this instance, frankly, Jennings is showing off his abilities. He knocked that out of the park. It's a great book. I promise you, you're going to like it. And my hope for Jennings is that this book is so successful that I deeply resent him by the end of the year. That is what we're hoping for. Help make me resent Jennings by making him successful. If you like Jennings, or you like short stories, and or you like science fiction, go to Amazon.com and check out Space Tractor and other science fiction short stories, and I will link to that in the episode description as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Reason Versus. Before we get to the main event, please welcome to the stage an actual Kentucky Colonel, Andrew Heaton.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to Reason Versus. Tonight we will be talking about mass immigration. I'm Andrew Heaton. My colleagues at Reason have asked me to put forth some of my thoughts for you before we begin to enlighten you and get the juices flowing on this topic. So I'd like to throw out my plan for immigration in the United States. This is my policy proposal. Anyone in the world can move to America if they open up an ethnic restaurant. I have lived in Texas. I have been to the border, and no one ever goes, damn it, another Mexican family restaurant across from the Panera. Oh, no. Everybody likes that. Now, I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, Heaton, wait a minute. What if a baddie sneaks in, like a terrorist? What about that? Here's my question to you. How good is their food? Do you all know what kunefe is? Anybody ever had kunefe? It's like Turkish baklava with molten cheese. It's delicious. Not only would I be willing to risk terrorists coming into my country to get kunefe, I would be willing to sacrifice all of your lives to have unfettered access to kunefe. That would be fine with me. So that's my plan. Let's see here. Spain? No, they don't get to come. Here's why. Tapas are a scam. They're a scam. Thank you very much. They're a scam. There's a tiny plate with food on it, but we're going to charge you for an entree? Where I'm from, we call that a snack. They're upcharging you. No, you don't get to do that. Sweden? Yes, Sweden gets to come in. I like Swedish meatballs, and I find the Swedes very funny. I will tell you why. In Sweden, on public television, they censor violence. In America, on public television, we censor nudity. And I think that's a very funny contrast. So in America, the way we think is, children can't see a topless lady. That'd screw them up forever. When's anybody ever going to see an areola? I haven't. But murder's fine. Totally fine for kids to see murder, because we're more afraid of sex than murder. They're more afraid of murder than sex. I think that's nice. Chinese. Yes, I like Chinese food. They can come in. That's fine. I was reading an article the other day. The Chinese developed a thing called a mega drone. A mega drone. And it's a drone that a guy sits inside of and he can steer it. So a helicopter. They invented a helicopter, from what I can tell. They can come in. Australia. No, Australia can't come in. I'll tell you why. The duck-billed platypus is a pervert beaver. It's a pervert beaver. And anybody that grew up around a pervert beaver that wants to open up an Outback steakhouse is not welcome. We got too many Outback steakhouses already here. No, I say that. I like Australians. I really do. I like Australians. I don't want to brag, but of my 19 failed relationships, one was with a girl from Perth. And I went over and visited Perth, and it was terrific. I really like Perth is the closest thing to Oklahoma I've ever been to past Guthrie. It was crazy. Like, I went on that 62-hour plane ride. I got out into Western Australia, and I was like, oh, a big flat area full of friendly white people. There's a touch of diabetes, a little racial tension, some homophobia, but they'll fix your car. I get it. Australia's just Waco plus kangaroos. But we already have Waco, so they can't come over. All right. The Scots. Yes. I'm in favor of this. Scottish cuisine is just circus food with sheep guts, which is fine. It's stodgy. That's good, honest food. Carnival food with sheep guts in it. That will improve the American character, in my opinion. They're welcome to come over. Although there are weird cultural differences that you wouldn't necessarily pick up on, even though we speak English. Some of the words mean different things. I don't know if you knew this or not, but like pissed and pissed off are different. So where I am from, pissed and pissed off mean angry. They both mean angry. In Scotland, pissed means drunk, which was very confusing and frightening to me when I went over there. Because people would say things like, oh, last night I got so pissed I blacked out and shot myself. And I'd go, oh my God, I have never been so angry that I lost bowel control before. That's terrifying. The other one is fag, which is not a good word to use in the United States. It's a pejorative about gay people. You shouldn't use it. Over there, apparently, it means cigarette. I didn't know that. That was very confusing. Because I'd go hang out at a bar and they'd go, hey, Gatsby, hold my pint. I'm going to nip out back in the alley for a fag. And I'd go, I support you and your lifestyle and whoever you're banging in the alley. That's terrific. I'm just going to sit here and quietly drink my heterosexual beer. I don't know that I need to announce any of that stuff. Please don't get angry and lose bowel control. That would really disturb me. All right, I'm going to have to get off here in a second. So I'm going to pitch something. So real quick, show of hands. Who thought I was like moderately funny or above? Raise your hand if you thought I was moderate funny or above. Okay, great. Okay, good. If you didn't, thank you. You can. Thanks for that, guy. Thank you very much for clapping. You can clap when I leave. Clap when I leave. Okay, if you didn't think I was very funny, please raise your hand. All right. I appreciate that, but for the 2 or 3 cowards that didn't think I was funny and didn't raise their hand, I want to make a pitch to you specifically. I'm way funnier on Reason TV than I am up here. I'm significantly funnier on YouTube than I am on this stage. We edit it, we cut out the bits that don't work. It's very funny. So later, after tonight, when you get your fill of a very substantial and thrilling debate over mass immigration, please check out Reason TV, check out the comedy playlist, and you'll find a lot of funny stuff. And with that, I bid you adieu. Have a great evening. Enjoy the debate.
That's the show. Thank you, Michael Ira Kaplan and Turner Sparks, for coming on to talk about Riyadh. Thank you, patrons who make it all possible. Until next time, I've been Andrew Heaton, and so have you.